early in modern history, Haiti has experienced devastating earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, epidemics, economic hardship, and instability. While most human beings would consider events that destroy hundreds of thousands of lives, homes, schools, and infrastructure as tragedies, there are others who consider them as opportunities. It appears that money and power, with an emphasis on money, were the opportunities that fueled the plot to overthrow Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. As the recently returned indictment and underlying complaints allege, while the murder of President Moïse occurred in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, much of the planning, funding, and direction of the plot to violently overthrow the president occurred right here in the United States, in the Southern District of Florida, beginning in early 2021. You'll have the charging documents available to you, but I would like to give you an overview of the defendants, the alleged events, and the charges connecting these defendants to this murder. I want you to think about it in terms of three groups. There were the planners and financiers, or financier, in South Florida. And then you also had operators with boots on the ground in Haiti. And there was a third group. Those were the hired soldiers from Colombia who traveled to Haiti to carry out the coup. Let's talk a little bit about the planners, organizers, and financiers in South Florida. We allege that the South Florida planners and organizers were defendants, the following defendants: Arcangel Pretel Ortiz and Antonio Entriago, who were principals of a South Florida-based company, the so-called Counter-Terrorist Unit Federal Academy and Counter Unit Security, or as we collectively refer to the companies in the charging documents, CTU. They were the planners. Now, there are also the financiers, the people who actually funded this. There was a gentleman by the name of, a defendant by the name of Walter Ventimilla, who owned a different company called Worldwide. This is a South Florida-based company. And there's another fellow, another defendant, called Frederick Bergman in Tampa. He too was part of the financing arm of this murderous operation. Let's talk a little bit about the operators with boots on the ground in Haiti. The alleged boots on the ground in Haiti included a fellow by the name of James Solage. He's a defendant, Haitian American, who represented CTU. Think of it this way: CTU, you had basically Entriago and Ortiz. Those were the owners of CTU, the company, the South Florida-based company that was actually organizing this. But they needed someone in Haiti, right? Because they were not themselves going to be operating things down there. James Solage is a Haitian American that was going to be down in Haiti, who represented CTU's interests and CTU's presence down on the ground in Haiti. There's another fellow, Christian Sanon. He's a Haitian American who was the co-conspirators' initial choice to replace President Moïse once they deposed him. Obviously, everyone sees himself as president, and that fellow saw himself as future president of Haiti. There is also Haitian citizen Joseph Joel Jones, who was a former senator in Haiti. There's a Haitian American, James Vincent, and finally, a Haitian national, Rodolphe Jar, G-A-A-R, rather J-A-A-R. It is alleged that, among other things, Jar, he secured weapons, and Sanon, Solage, and John helped secure support for the cause. And Vincent helped facilitate things on the ground. As you can imagine, for an operation of that nature, you're going to need a place to stay, you're going to need lodging, and that sort of thing. Now, we get now to the part about the hired soldiers from Colombia who went to Haiti to carry out the coup. It is alleged that the Colombian nationals German Rivera Garcia and Mario Palacios were two of the hired soldiers who traveled to Haiti to carry out the plot. Coup d'etat discussions began in early 2021, and in April 2021, Ortiz, Entriago, John, Solage, and Sanon met in South Florida So keep that in mind, folks. These folks were meeting right here in South Florida and agreed to a plan where Ortiz and Entriago, through CTU, that's the company, South Florida-based company, would support ousting Haitian President Moïse and replacing him with Sanon, the fellow who wanted to be president. In exchange, once Sanon became president, the deal went, he would award lucrative contracts to CTU for infrastructure projects in Haiti, the provision of security forces, and the provision of military-type equipment to a Sanon-led Haitian government. It is alleged that in late April 2021, Ventimiglia and his company Worldwide, remember now CTU was one company and Worldwide was the other company, agreed to help finance the coup d'etat. So Worldwide now extended a $175,000 line of credit to CTU and sending money to co-conspirators in Haiti to purchase ammunition, among others. Ventimiglia expected to reap significant financial benefits through Worldwide should in fact President Moïse be replaced as president, as did Ortiz and Entriago through CTU. So keep in your mind basically CTU and Worldwide, those are the two corporate entities, the two companies behind this. Further planning and spending continued in South Florida from April to June 2021. It is alleged, for example, that Ortiz and Entriago, again CTU's sort of alter ego, if you will, retained a group of about 20 Colombian nationals with military training to provide security to Sanon, which included Rivera and Palacios. Remember, Rivera and Palacios were the folks down there that were going to make sure that the troops knew what they were doing, soldiers knew what they were doing. We also allege that during that time, Defendant Bergman, that is the fellow in Tampa, right, became a supporter and an investor, if you will, who helped fund the Colombians' lodging in Haiti and worked with Sanon and Entriago to ship some 20 CTU-branded ballistic vests from South Florida to Haiti by falsifying the required export documentation. Now I want to take it now to June 2021. The plan evolved as Ortiz, Entriago, and Ventimiglia and others apparently realized that Sanon had neither the constitutional qualifications nor the popular support of the Haitian people to become president. Even in Haiti, there are certain requirements in order to be president. Things like citizenship requirement, things like residency requirement, that sort of thing. But they hadn't thought about that when they selected Sanon. So they then shifted their support from Sanon to a new person now who is going to be president. And that person is a former Supreme Court judge in Haiti who then decided to contract with, again, CTU and Worldwide, those are the two companies moving the dial in this, to serve the company's financial interest upon becoming president. The charging documents also allege that by June 2021, the plot progressed from forcibly removing Moïse from power. Initially, that was the plot. We're just going to remove him, all right? Now, the plot thickened to assassinating him. Now, from South Florida, Ortiz and Entriago, they managed and directed Solage, that is the Haitian American who went down there to Haiti, the CTU representative that I mentioned to you earlier in Haiti, and also through Rivera. They also directed the Colombian nationals who participated in the assassination that day. On July 6, 2021, the co-conspirators, they met at a house near President Moïse's residence. We allege that firearms and equipment were distributed and an announcement was made, and that announcement was unambiguously that the mission was to kill President Moïse. On July 7, 2021, several individuals arrived outside President Moïse's residence. They entered the president's home, and as planned, discussed, they killed him. Ortiz, Entriago, Ventimilla, Solage, Vincent, Rivera, Palacios, Jar, and John. They are charged with the following. 1, conspiracy to provide material support and resources to a conspiracy to kidnap or kill outside the United States, resulting in death. 2, they are also charged with providing material support and resources to a conspiracy to kidnap or kill outside the United States, resulting in death. And 3, finally, they are also charged with conspiracy to kill or kidnap a person outside the United States. If convicted, they face up to life in prison, each one of them. Now, not everyone was charged with the very, very serious charge involving death. There were also a couple of charges were Bergman and Sanon. They were charged with conspiracy to commit export violations, that is, exports in connection to the things that were shipped down to Haiti in order to carry out this, and submitting and misleading export information, and 3, smuggling ballistic vests, that is, the ballistic vests that were CTU branded that the Colombians were wearing on that unfortunate day, from smuggling ballistic vests from the United States to Haiti. Those 2 charges, right, they carry up to 20 years in prison, and that is the only charges right now Bergman and Sanon are actually facing. I want to certainly thank you for your patience as we went through delineating all these facts and elements. But I would also like to thank the tremendous work and dedication of the prosecutors handling this case. They have been on this case from literally the very moment that these tragic events occurred. And as a former prosecutor on the line myself, I can tell you it takes countless hours, a lot of it away from your family, to be able to actually do this work. So I am deeply, deeply thankful and deeply proud for the collaboration and the sort of things that you folks have done in this matter. And that is Andrea Goldberg and Monica Castro, and of course trial attorneys Frank Russo and Jessica Fender. I also want to thank the agents who worked on this case. You know, while prosecutors prosecute and they try cases, it goes without saying that the work that the agents, the work that they do is instrumental in being able to do these cases. So I'm deeply thankful to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Homeland Security Investigations for their tireless work and efforts and dedication to this investigation and prosecution. Lastly, it takes so many different parts to make these things work. I also want to thank Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, that's ATF, the Diplomatic Security Service, DSS, Department of Defense, the U.S. Department of Commerce, Bureau of Industry and Security, Office of Export Enforcement, and, of course, the Justice Department's Office of International Affairs for their assistance. To the extent that folks have questions, I and Matt will take some questions. Yes, sir?
In line with what you were just hearing, how do you see the significance of these arrests?
Well, the significance of this arrest, if you look at the breakdown of the defendants, right, you have the way I break it down, you had sort of the Haiti side, and then you have the state side, right, defendants, if you will. What we have right now is the significance is we have sort of the totality. Now, the investigation still goes on, but we think we've reached a critical mass in terms of the people that were responsible for this, in terms of organizers and planners of this. So when you think, for instance, when you think of Ortiz, you think of Entriago, right? And you think of Bergman, you know, who was part of the financing. It is extremely important to bring those folks to justice, right? It's not enough to, you know, go out there and arrest some folks that were just on the ground in Haiti without the planning, without the thought process, of saying we're going to go out there in Haiti and depose this president, at the end of the day, we were not here today.
Is this the end? Could there be more arrests in the future? You've had dozens arrested so far in Haiti, and now this number here in the U.S.
I think you know the answer to that question, and that is investigations continue when it comes to these things, and as things develop, then you react accordingly. As you know, initially we were operating based on complaints, and once we reached a certain point where we were comfortable to actually bring on indictments with all these defendants, then that's what we're doing. What we're not going to do is get ahead of ourselves and indict folks where we may not believe that the evidence warrants such indictments.
As a follow-up to that, in Haiti, many people wonder whether, as the last question suggested, there are other people involved. Do you believe that you have captured or indicted the masterminds, the people who are really behind this? Because that's where a lot of the speculation is swirling in Haiti, that there are other people, bigger fish, than just these people.
So one thing I do know is the very moment that I say, well, we've basically captured the masterminds, next thing you know, there's a new fact that comes up. There's a new person that pops up, and you realize, obviously, investigations are fluid, and we proceed based on the facts we have in front of us. I can tell you again that the investigation continues to the extent that things are developed. Well, we have other individuals. I can assure you that those people will be brought to justice. There's no question in my mind about that.
A question along that line. These individuals here have the South Florida connection, but do you see this investigation also reaching back into Haiti in terms of bringing any of those additional suspects here? And can you please explain why Sano, who was involved in the meetings initially in South Florida, why isn't he being charged as part of the conspiracy of the kidnapping and the assassination?
It's a very good question. From our perspective, though, what I can tell you is this. To the extent that we are going to bring we're not saying that the export violation charges are not serious. They are serious, and obviously there's a price to pay for that. But to the extent that we're going to bring the very, very serious charges involving punishment of life punishment, we want to make sure that any charges that are brought, we're comfortable that we can meet the elements of that charge at the moment when we charge those. What we're not going to do is we're not going to overcharge. We're not going to charge people just so we can say that we're able to charge every single individual that played a role. Now, I understand where you're coming from in terms of Sano's role and involvement in this, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that he played a huge role in the planning but I want to make sure that, remember, that there's different part of this evolve, right? Initially, the plan was we're going to depose the president. We're going to depose President Moise. Not necessarily to kill him initially. At least that's not where we are. But as you know, Jackie, the notion that you're going to depose the president, the notion that there's no elegant way to do that, right? If you're going to show up with, weapons, you're going to show up with ballistic vest, you're going to show up with ski mask, I think you would expect that somebody's going to get hurt. Much like if you're going to go out there and rob a liquor store and you show up with guns, you probably should expect that somebody's going to get hurt in the process. But for our purposes, though, we always going to charge what we believe the evidence can prove at that time. But to your point, the investigation continues.
Chief Patel, the FBI informant, can you please tell us what did the agency know about his role and his involvement in this assassination plot?
So let me try to break this down. Your question is, what did the government know?
Chief Patel, who has been a confidential FBI informant who testified on behalf of the agency, and we at the Miami Herald have reported, based on sources, several sources, that he was an active FBI informant at the time of the assassination of President Moise. what did the agency know about his role in his assassination?
Well, what we know, so here's what the agency or anyone else who's part of the investigation knew about Ortiz's involvement. We know at the end of the day that he was a CTU owner. We know that he, along with Inscrivez, actually devised the plan to depose the president. As part of the investigation, clearly law enforcement learned those things, but those were not things that law enforcement would have known prior to them happening. So that's our position on that one. Go ahead, sir.
You mentioned at the beginning that the interest switched from Saddam to another judge in Haiti that was supposed to be the next president of Haiti. Could you just let us know more the name of the judge, and will that judge be facing any charge in the United States?
Well, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I would prefer not to actually use the name. As tempting as it may be, let us work up the investigation, and to the extent that we're going to bring charges at a certain time, we're not saying that's where we're going, then at that time we'll feel more comfortable to do that. We don't think it's, again, you probably realize that person clearly is a co-conspirator, because that person, when that person was approached, that person entered into an agreement to be part of this coup. But we want to go ahead and take one step at a time, one day at a time, and where we are right now, we're comfortable with the charges that we've brought.
Is it the same judge that issued the order to arrest the president of Haiti at that time, or is it a different judge?
It's a brilliant way of asking that same question, but I cannot answer it.
Lawyers for Mr. President say, lawyers for Mr. President, the lawyer for Mr. Inscrivez says that his client has been cooperating all along from day one, since the beginning of your investigation. Have Mr. Ortiz and Mr. Ventimiglia been cooperating?
I will refer you back to the lawyer to the extent that you've had that sort of conversation with him. So we're not in a position to discuss whether or not anyone has or will cooperate at this moment. I appreciate it.
But it's been 20 months, practically, since President Moise was assassinated. Don't take this question wrong.
Of course.
But a lot of people are going to obviously ask, why did it take so long? It's a complicated case, many pieces, as you've explained, to piece together. But in a nutshell, can you explain to us why a case like this has taken so long to come to this place?
That's just the way life works. Things take a long time. That's just as honest of an answer I can give you. Investigations are not a thing where you just snap your finger and they happen. Interviewing witnesses take a long time. Going out there and confirming information that was provided to you by one witness to the next, those are long, arduous tasks, and which is why, from my perspective, from that side of thing, when I deal with law enforcement, when I deal with HSI, when I deal with the FBI, folks have no idea in terms of how they get through where they get to, how they get from point A to point Z. But what I can tell you is, it's a lot of work. We'd like to do it with a snap of a finger. But what we also know is this, though, just to your point. When you go out there and you go too fast, right? So there is the same criticism on you went too fast and you overcharged the case, or you failed to properly charge the person you should have charged. So I will accept the criticism of having taken too long, as opposed to not being deliberate enough to bring the proper charges.
We're going to take a moment, please. We're just going to take 2 more questions.
I have to get this in, is that first Haitian American U.S. attorneys, their personal sense of satisfaction here in terms of accomplishing more in this case?
Well, I don't think you have to be a Haitian American to appreciate the human tragedy part of this, right? I think all of us can feel sympathy, can feel, when wrong is wrong, right? Because the way I look at it, I imagine that's the way most of you look at it, is there's a human element part of this story, right? You have someone who was murdered in his home, right? Right now, as we speak, there is a wife who is without her husband. There is a son who is without her father. There is a daughter who is without her father. And I don't know if President Moise, if his parents were alive at the time. I imagine it is the worst thing in life for one to have to bury a child, however old they may be. So, as a human being, you are impacted by these events in a very profoundly sad sort of way. So I would say in that sense. But I think all of us here are from South Florida. We're very familiar with the history of Haiti. We're very familiar with some of the calamities that it has suffered for so many years, beginning with its independence. From the very moment that it actually got its independence as a country from France, the first thing that happened, that reparations were actually imposed on Haiti. Folks may not know this. And for almost 150 years, they had to pay to the folks that had enslaved the country for many years. As a result, infrastructure and all kinds of things couldn't happen. And then you put on top of that the long history of earthquakes and hurricanes, mudslides. I don't think you have to be a Haitian or have to be not to feel a tremendous sense of pain about that history, about those types of things. But what I can tell you, though, is those individuals, though, when they looked at those circumstances, when they looked at that history, they didn't say to themselves, let me go down to Haiti and help. They saw an opportunity. They thought they could go down there and actually reap the benefits of that vulnerability. I hope that answers your question.
We're going to have one more question.
Thanks. The question of Patel being an FBI informant, while this was going on, and obviously he must not have told his FBI contacts that he was involved in this affair, in this murder. Does the FBI have anything to say about that? Because clearly, I mean, on the face of it, he duped them. He cannot have been telling them the truth. He certainly could not have been telling them that he was involved in this plot. So what is the reaction to that?
Well, I think just the reaction to that is, while he may have in fact been a source, but I think your question has its own answers in that he couldn't have possibly been sharing with the FBI that he was going to actually be part of a plot to, one, initially depose the president, and two, as an evolution to kill the president. So I cannot imagine that would have been the case.
Correct. So he obviously did not, I mean, it stands to reason he did not tell them that.
Right.
But doesn't the FBI feel as though they were duped by him? That he was obviously withholding pretty important information to an agency that he was supposedly in contact with and helping in perhaps in other matters. Right. Now, does the FBI have anything to say about it?
What I can tell you is this, Ortiz, in terms of, what I can tell you is this, whatever the protocol the FBI uses in dealing with sources and their conduct, that's going to be for another day. It is not within the confines of what we're talking about here today. But I appreciate the question nonetheless.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're wrapping up now. We will be issuing a press release in a few minutes. Okay? Those are all the questions. That will be